I can't even pronounce the name of this game. We're about to check out the review. Enotria, the last song. It looks interesting.
Enotria, the last song.
Enotria, the last song.
Most games
I was right.
inspired by
I can read.
software-style action RPGs. You patiently adventure through dungeons, put weapons of various shapes and sizes into monsters,
okay,
and try not to die terribly in the process.
Nice.
It's all pretty familiar by now, but all the other stuff around that core is where developer Jayama Games really tries to spice up
Jayama
this
Games.
recipe. The ideas that work, like taking the setting out of dank caves and swampy bogs into the shimmering light of sunny mountainsides and colorful cities, really work. The things that don't, like the overwhelming amount of unintuitive things to unlock and equip and the janky performance issues, keep Enotria's name from gracing the growing list of games that become more than just another Souls-like.
I am not gonna lie, I'm kind of over this kind of style of games, but what else am I gonna do, right? Like, I'm probably about to be like on my Nintendo bag and play a lot of Nintendo games, but sheesh. These games are cool, but can we take a pause for them?
The most striking way Enotria escapes the dark and gloomy shadow of the big games it's inspired by is its livelier setting and art direction.
Okay.
Most Souls-likes are dedicated to dank caves and dungeons
Dank
that are
caves.
staples of the genre. Enotria gets the sun involved in a big way beyond simply just praising it. Just look at it. Striking skies, rolling fields of golden sunflowers, and clean, sandy shores are front and center.
It looks cool.
Similarly,
It looks interesting.
Many enemy and NPC character designs are covered in little details that make them pop.
Yeah.
Even when the textures can sometimes feel
Is he
flat.
handing,
Each
like, standing
area is
upside
filled
down?
with enemies that can get a bit repetitive over time. That doesn't mean they can't be dangerous the whole way through,
well,
but I saw most of what I could expect from a given region pretty early into it, and it takes about 5 or so hours to get through one.
Okay, well, I was just about to say that.
I did enjoy most of the bosses I encountered, the best of them providing unique challenges that broke up the dungeon skulking. They aren't all hits though. Sometimes I fought cool stuff like this.
This is cool.
Other times I fought different colored versions of guys like this on 4 separate occasions.
I'd rather fight this than that other thing that you were just fighting.
Slightly undermined by some inconsistent performance too. Even my reliable combo of an Intel Core i9-9000 processor and an RTX 3070 GPU struggled to keep the frame rate smooth, usually when entering new zones or fighting outside in very sunny spots. It was always a bummer to see such pretty spaces chug so dramatically, regardless of the combination of settings.
You hate to see it.
Even so, there's a lot of worthwhile exploration to do in each of Enotria's 3 zones. Areas like the eerie and bustling city of Quinta are dense with lots of branching paths that lead to loot or shortcuts. There were plenty of nooks and crannies to find despite the relative
Look at him bopping. He over there bopping.
But there were some gimmicks that seemed like they would be a bigger deal early on that showed up very scarcely after. Like these glyphs that can be activated to make temporary platforms and structures to open up new locations. Much more common are these red glyphs all over the world that unleash combat challenges which range from pushovers to absolute menaces. I was happy to see that they were optional after I went knocking on their door and got knocked on my ass.
I mean, we're not on my sword.
The combat is pretty strong, so finding new enemies to beat up is always a good experience, frame rate issues notwithstanding.
You hate to see it, man.
And parrying doesn't stun enemies outright, instead building up a gauge that eventually opens bad guys up for big
no blocking and parries do not stun. Okay, interesting.
Attacks. Enotria's parry window is more forgiving than in games like Lies of P.
Okay,
similarly wraps its
mind.
entire defensive strategy around counters, and therefore it felt more approachable in the early game, though that definitely changed as I got around the middle of my
he getting mollywopped. Damn, get up, move, fight back
into this kind of challenge, but sometimes the claustrophobic camera.
Oh, that's not a good scene to be looking at right now. I would
gone with a mind of its own, felt like they were working with the enemies.
Damn.
The risk reward of the parry system extends to the 4 status elements you can afflict enemies with or be afflicted by.
What's
each
that?
having
Poison,
a dual set of
fire
conditions that help and harm. Causing dizziness on opponents reduces their defenses, but also makes them stronger and lets them recover stamina more quickly.
What?
It does sometimes feel counterintuitive or regressive on some bosses especially. Using the Fatuo element against enemies weak to it will do more damage, but it will also put the wicked status on them, which makes all of their elemental power way more destructive.
So I like this take, right? I like this take. I would like to see some more games do this kind of thing, where instead of just having a weakness, so if we're weak against poison, right? They're weak against poison and they're poisoned, you could do more damage, but now another stat of theirs, or you know, ability of theirs is buffed up because they are poisoned. I like that. I would love to see this concept expound upon and explored more in other games.
Overall, though, I think the ailment system does encourage staying vigilant even when you have the advantage.
Right.
On the other hand, Enotria's 7 different weapon types aren't all as distinct from one another mechanically. Ultra Great Swords and Colossal Hammers are technically different on paper, but in practice I found no need to dedicate my 2 weapon slots to both of these where one big stick would do. Whoa. There are around 120 weapons
one letter
all
away,
these
man.
types, and while I didn't nearly find as many as that, the ones I did find covered just about every base possible. Interestingly, different weapons can hide some additional abilities that are only activated when using the right light-heavy combos. I didn't spend too much time testing which ones do what, but more than once the decision to choose between 2 similar weapons with similar traits came down to the fact that one of them did extra elemental damage when I hit the right button and the other didn't, and I enjoyed having that opportunity.
That's actually pretty cool. More matters, less art.
As far as building your character goes, masks are as close to classes as Enotria gets. Besides changing your look, they offer passive bonuses like doing more damage with heavy attacks or increasing stamina and defense. To get an effective build going, you need to use their boons as a
bruiser, assassin, elementalist, trickster, and battle mage
baseline, and layer on additional modifications in the form of roles and perks. The former are aspects of enemies you defeat that alter your stats in positive and negative ways, while also giving you more passive bonuses. I beat up a big crab and its aspect raised 3 of my stats, but lowered 2 others, while also raising my health by a percentage. On top of that, perks can be used to add even more passive quirks to all of the attacks, dodges, parries, and abilities you'll use.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting,
Mixing
man.
and matching mask lines, Enotria's version of offensive and defensive skills and spells, can be fun. Most of them are pretty impactful, even if the only real difference between many of them is the special element or status effects they cause. They must be charged up by hitting enemies before they can be employed, meaning they can't be used to get you out of binds reactionarily. This isn't so bad when adventuring through dungeons because you'll have plenty of opportunities to hit things and fill up your meters. The problem appears when you pull up to a boss fight, which empties your meters fully before you start, meaning you have to work up to these powerful attacks.
I kind of don't like that. Sometimes I want to go into a boss big dick, like ready to go smashing, bashing, and everything that I've worked up, and then when I get to the boss fight, you deplete
from scratch against
got nothing
challenges where you'd likely need.
But I mean, that's that's not bad. That's not bad. That's kind of like challenging a little bit, right? Okay, it's not too bad. Now that I'm thinking about it, you're right.
I understand why the designers would want to level the playing field, but it always felt needlessly punitive, and I would have liked to have been able to take advantage of preparing for a fight in that way. This is a lot of character tweaking to do, and perhaps too much for all but the most dedicated build hounds. I enjoy that myself, but what's irritating is that none of the impacts of this lasagna of layered RPG systems are well communicated before testing things live against enemies. A list of all the bonuses being applied by everything in my loadout would have done wonders for measuring my build's potential while still on the menu screen, for example.
Right. Makes sense.
Being able to set up 3 separate loadouts, each with their own masks, weapons, lines, perks, etc., that you can switch through on the fly means you can be ready for anything, but after settling on 2 builds I liked, I almost never made use of the third. In fact, I didn't have to interact much with any of these systems after finding a good build early, which both highlights how ineffective it is at creating diverse playstyles naturally, and how strong the combat is without all of that noise.
The verdict. This is a 7. They're probably giving this one a 7. It's kind of mid.
Aside from the fundamentals of combat, Enotria: The Last Song really tries to step outside of the box when it comes to dressing up the standard Souls-like. The sun-drenched environments and wild Italian folklore-inspired character designs are a real breath of fresh air straight from Italy's Alps. Combat is fun, even if the difficulty spikes unexpectedly, and despite the bloat of many systems that govern all of the more nuanced abilities and stats.
Okay.
The unapproachability of its RPG systems and the wonky performance when a smooth
It might be lower.
are what really prevent Enotria from taking center stage.
Nope, I was right. It's the favorite number here.
Check out our reviews of I Am Your
favorite number here. Okay, that game looks all right, man. I wouldn't play it myself personally because I'm just over, like, you know, Souls-like games and stuff like that. But if it was free, I would check it out. Of course, I would download it and actually play it and give my actual thoughts about it. But until that moment, that is going to be it. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys are gonna play this game. Check it out and let me know if you did, and let me know if you agree with the review or not. All right. My name is Marz, and I'm moving on to the next one. I'm out there, bitch. Peace.